Welcome to another live episode of Halftime Adjustments. It's your host, Eddie Arnett, my man G Witt, Mr. J. Loops. What's going on,
Tighten
gentlemen?
up, baby.
Tighten up, baby.
Tighten up, fellas. We finally made it.
Yes, sir.
Week 1,
Absolutely.
2024 Tennessee Titans football. First game on the road against the Chicago Bears, man. It's here, man. It's real football. Everybody's back and practicing. And the last one we hadn't heard too much about yet is D-Hop, man. But we'll probably hear some about it this week as we come up. But, man, Cheeto and Snead been out there, and Diggs and Jamal Adams still ain't out there. I don't know what's going on now, but but let's take a look at the rosters, man, because our last show we did our preseason. We did our 53-man. We'll talk about some surprises and whatever you guys have for that, man. So let's just kick it off that way. And we'll look at the offensive side first. Of course, I think the biggest surprise off the bat for all of us, because we said Haskins, but he didn't make the squad. So, G-Witt, man, what you think about that, man? Because he was considered a beast on special teams, according to Kelly.
Yeah, but, the thing about it, I think, is that, you got plenty of special teams players. I think just the fact that, especially that in the last two games, he did not run well at all. No, and Kelly just put it out there. Said he's strong on special teams, but right now Julius Chestnut's the better running back. So they just obviously went with the better running back, the guy who's going to be able to get them the yards when they need to. And plus, if you watched Haskins during the games, his vision was suspect, man. It's like he couldn't even see the hole sometime, man. It was weird.
Yeah, it was weird.
That one, even though we had him on there, that didn't surprise me that they released him. Because I just knew he wasn't going to be the third running back. He was going to be the fourth one, regardless.
Yeah, that was wish things could have worked out better for him, man. He was such J-Lo, he was showing promise early on in his career, man, and just I don't know. I don't know what happened to him. Maybe the variable treatment or whatever, but yeah. And so wide receiver though, J-Lo, I think we did pretty good. Surprised there, Kearis Jackson, of course. Even your guy, J-Lou, Kenzie makes the practice squad. He's back.
Which you heard Callie say that they told him he was wide receiver number 7. So I think we were spot on with our wide receivers for the most part. Yeah. With the number they kept. No truth. I think this was a year where you haven't seen a talented deep at this position in a long time for the Titans. I mean, it was some tough cuts. And again, some of those guys, especially Bryce Oliver, was one that you was glad. And it goes to show coaching. If you listen to some of the interviews and all, Callie told him that it would be in his best interest to come back to this practice squad because they had already invested the time in him. So glad to see him get back. You hope that none of these guys have to get called up this year. Because that could mean that you get that injury bug. But it's nice to see, some of that familiarity on the practice squad with those guys. I think the biggest surprise on the initial 53 to me on the offensive side of the ball, not including practice squad, would be the emphasis that was put on the younger offensive linemen. Yeah, a couple of the veterans that we thought would squeeze through. Yes. Now they ended up with a couple of them on the practice squad, so you still can pull them up. And I think procedural, that kind of made sense when I, as I was texting y'all, when certain veterans, when they're released, they're free agents, so they don't have to go through waiver processes, and some of these young guys still going through waiver processes. So again, I think G Witt mentioned in one of our text threads, playing chess, not checkers, with some of the moves like that. But I thought that was interesting to show you what Bill Callahan thinks of this offensive line and what he wants to continue to do to develop. Because again, I think we all can agree that the depth's not there on the O-line. I mean, we got to hope that this 5 can make it 80-90% of the season. This is being honest. But it's good to see them still getting that teaching intelligence up under Bill, being on that practice squad. Because, if folks that might be new to the show and new to football, the practice squad, they do everything but play on Sunday.
That's right.
So they're going through the whole 9. So I think that was probably my biggest surprise when you started looking at the offensive line and how that was put together, just going with a lot of the young guys.
Yeah, and outside of Ojukwu and Duncan, you got Corey Levin that's on the practice squad. He can play center and guard. And then you got Leroy Watson. And Cody Spencer. And so that's your depth right there, like you said. Rupchich, we've heard about him doing camp. and Brunskill, of course, as those backup guys. So yeah, you hope that your 5 can play the whole season. And not to mention that, one more take on the wide receiver, you got Colton Dallas on a PUP list, starting the season. So maybe we'll see him, and that'll be interesting to see what they do with him when he's eligible to come off that list.
Right.
Does he go to the 53? Who gets moved out of the 53? Because they do have 5 tight ends. So,
I'll be honest. I think Colton, if I was a betting man, which I like to do, I think they redshirt him this year.
Entertainment purposes only.
Yeah, entertainment purposes only. I think with his injury, what was he? December, if I'm not mistaken, near the very end of the season. It was near the end. I think that and this is a year. Again, we talked about it ad nauseum, but you got a brand new coaching staff. I don't think they feel like you have to rush him back, given the talent you have in the wide receiver room. And if you could buy him a year to get healthy, get up under this system. The top half of your wide receiver room is getting up there in age as well. So if you got an Oliver, a Dow, a Jackson that could be 4 years down the road, your stars, I think you try to take advantage of that. So it'd be, like I said, it'd be interesting to see, but it wouldn't shock me if he rides the year out on the PUP.
Hey, you know who's going to still beat us? NWI.
Oh, of course.
Always.
Yeah. And so the tight ends, though, man, 5 tight ends, which was, unique. We didn't have that. We had 4 with which I think we had a Duke. A Duke. I can't even spell his name, but the guy from overseas. Yeah, we had him not making the 53, but I mean, the hustle on the special teams play was outstanding.
Yes.
Right? Yes. And it drew a lot of attention. So I'm not saying that's why he made the squad, but I mean, he deserved it, right? He played well. He had a good camp. A good camp. So if you look at the trim the fat on the offense, that's probably where you're gonna look at, in my opinion. If it comes down to it. But yeah, so let's go to the defensive side of the ball. G Witt, man, any surprises there for what we had initially? Now, we talked about on the last show, there was rumors about trading for Ernest Jones, which we saw that take place, which was to me was just ran this cooking again. But G Witt on the defense, man, was there any surprises that you was like, man, I wasn't expecting that?
Well, to be totally honest, I mean, I got to be truthful, even though we know we all knew and said that he didn't have a good preseason at all, and didn't look like he was having that great of a camp. Still, it was a shocker to see Weaver get cut. Even though we knew he was on the border, we just thought, due to depth purposes for the outside linebacker, that he was probably going to make the squad. But then he, again, like you said, ran cooking. He goes out and makes a trade for the same type player coming out of Houston. So that made him expendable. So it's going to be interesting to see how all this works out. And, of course, I'm sure Denard had a lot to do with that, as far as trying to find another player that's going to be a little bit more aggressive. And as we always said, plays the run better. Because the one thing we could say, Rashad Weaver, he could rush the passer on occasionally, but he setting the edge and playing the run was not his strength.
Yeah, and I don't understand why he wasn't better. Yeah, he's a big guy, right? Yeah, he's a big. Yeah, Darius, he got signed by the Texans today, and I just couldn't put it together, because he was coming out of Pittsburgh. He was showing a lot of ability playing on the edge, and it's like he got here, and I don't know, man. It's like he show up one game, another game he wouldn't show up. I don't know, man. It's just something. So I think something mental. Really, a change of scenery usually does good for everybody, right? Yeah. So maybe to help. But what about you, J. Lou? Any surprises for you on the defensive side of the ball on the initial 53?
Yeah, 4 cornerbacks.
Yeah,
and I think, and again, if you've paid attention to anything we've said all off season,
don't be surprised.
We kept saying this is more than a 1-year rebuild. I'll be honest, part of me is bitter because part of this rebuild should have started last year. So I'm just in my feelings a little bit about the team, because you could have been another year ahead, but you could not fix every single problem you had in one off season. And by them going 4 corners showed me that is where you probably put your attention next year to build depth. Because look at how they built the team. They built it in the trenches. I mean, the O-line and D-line, you got the win. all football games are won in the trenches. I think we all know that. So they started there. You put this, and then what else do you do to try to build it when you could do a 1-year build? You put the skill receivers around the folks that's got to score. Mm-hmm. So you put that around the offense. And now they went out and spent some money on. I mean, we got 4 corners. Those top 2 they spent money on, and one of them you're hoping is a shutdown corner and can stay healthy. But I think that was the one concern. And it also proves to what we saw with our naked eye that's a little different than I think in the past. We might have been trying to keep players just to hit a number. Mm-hmm. I think we all agreed once you got past 4, good luck on a cornerback from what we saw. So now again, they brought some of those guys back to be in the system and be on the practice squad and be able to call up, etc. But I really thought that was the biggest surprise. No moves made there. But again, long-term thinking, and y'all know I'm usually behind the scenes on how I look at it. I can see the vision probably for that position group going forward. But I think that would have probably been the biggest one was just keeping 4 to begin with.
Yeah, you talking about your number 5 corner possibly being Trey Avery. Or Anthony Kendall, or Gabe Giuliani, which he had a good camp, as a rookie, undrafted free agent. And so those guys get back on the practice squad, to your point. And, that's one of the positions, like you said, next year that they hit hard and try to build it up. But, and the way that they've added to the defensive side of the ball, you got a lot of players with versatility.
Yes.
With Diggs and Adams can play in the box, and you still got Mike Brown back there, safety. He can do some things for the Titans, and so the defense in particular is going to look different from what we're used to, right? It's not going to. It's going to have three safeties, 2 corners. So I can see why, right? I can understand because they're going to play more safeties than we used to around here. Mm-hmm. Used to just play the traditional 2 safeties, but now you probably see 3. And I tell you what though, what I can't wait to see is Murray and Jones playing. We still hadn't seen the whole defense yet, man. But shout out, man. Appreciate y'all joining us tonight. Darius, Rodney, my bad. Nathan Moe, Carlton Ross, man. I'm gonna give you a props. Now he said I root for the Titans, but this week is bear down. Come on,
I understand.
Man. Come on, man.
He can't help himself, but
Right. Eddie Gray, man. Appreciate y'all showing up. Dion tonight, man. He said a word. He's here. We don't have to be nervous anymore. Appreciate you, Dion, coming. The other surprise, guys. Before we signed James Lynch, we only had 4 defensive linemen. Yeah. Now some of that was to injury, right? To McClendon, they was going to keep him. He got turf toe, which. They say he's going to be gone for the whole year.
He's out the year. Yeah, they didn't designate him to return.
Right. Marlon Davidson had a IR injury. And so, but they go out and they sign James Lynch. I thought it was a good pickup. Defensive lineman from Minnesota, 6'4", 295, 300 pounds. Can really play solid on the edge. And so, again, the defense is going to look different from what we used to, fellas, and it's something we're going to have to see. I do like the Ali Gay pickup, G-Wit, to your point, from the Texans. Long guy, 6'6", 260 pounds, can play the edge and put his hand in the dirt. He says he's normally in the dirt, but he can also stand up. Hopefully he can play a little coverage. He might not be there for coverage, though. His assignment might be just to set the edge.
Set the edge and rush the passer, man. As long as he can play the run.
Yeah, as long as he can play the run.
Position, that's the main key because that was because we already know Arden Key doesn't play the run very well.
No.
And we knew that Rashad Weaver didn't play the run very well. And you definitely need somebody on the opposite side who can play the run. Yes. You can't just be Harold Landry.
No, and you need to have somebody that can at least come in and take a few snap counts off Harold Landry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Yeah. Like you said, hopefully he can play the run and he don't have to do anything else outside of that because we might be in trouble if he does. And again, Harold, Jalen Harold, the rookie from Michigan, he plays the run well.
Yes,
he does great on the edge, and so I'm excited about the young guys we got this year, man. I know we've talked about it at nausea, but yeah, man. So the defense, that's it. We'll see what happens. They're out there, all of them together. We got Chicago week 1, J. Lou. Of course, they got Caleb Williams, Duzier, first-round picks. Mm-hmm. They added to an offense that kind of did an overhaul, if you want to say, like we did, right? They overhauled their whole offense. They got Keenan Allen, brought in DeAndre Swift, the running back, Gerald Everett, the tight end. Mm-hmm. I said Keenan Allen. So Jay Lou, man, what are the Bears gonna bring to the table for week 1 for this defense, man?
So you're gonna have to withstand the initial punch. It's a lot of hype around the game. You talking about the number 1 overall pick. It's not a nationally televised game, but it's gonna be in a lot of households at that noon time slot on Fox, given Chicago market and Caleb Williams. So I think as the Titans, you've got to withstand that initial punch.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to test the DBs right off the bat. I mean, they go 3 deep. I mean, granted, Duzier is a rookie, but again, he's still a solid one that I think we wouldn't have mind seeing him if he was in two-tone blue. I think he'd be a good receiver. So, I mean, you saw what DJ Moore did last year. DeAndre Swift is a Swifty back, no pun intended, out of that backfield. And they're just going to have to, I think it was said best, was it Harold Landry? And I'm paraphrasing today, where guys are just going to have to, nobody can go in business for themselves, rushing the quarterback like him.
Right.
Because, we've seen Caleb Williams, if you've seen him in college and seen anything in the preseason, he's not one of these guys that wants to run first, but I know he's been compared a lot to Patrick Mahomes. He reminds me in the pocket of him a little bit, where he just moves enough that it's irritating because you can't sack him. So now again, rookie quarterback, you want to throw some things at him to keep him off guard, and I fully expect to see Denard do that. But I think a lot of it is just going to be those guys stay in gap control and not letting we let these type of quarterbacks, we usually let the off schedule plays beat us. We've got to not get beat by the off schedule plays, because again, you expect to see them 3 wide. So I mean, we'll be at a nickel dime package, as you pointed out earlier, Ed, for the majority of the game, and just how we can withstand that. But again, I think the defense. I'm looking forward. Now the Bears' offensive line has some weak spots there. So this is one of them games where this revamped line, the interior, and I was going to say that center guard triangle is really where we see Big T Sweat and Jeff get ready to go to work, and they can control this game if they getting the pressure up front and dominating like they can make it a long day for that offensive line.
Yeah, and to me, that's the whole key. If they get that push up the middle with the pressure coming from the outside, they can just contain, and keep him in the pocket and not allow him to spin out and everything. And granted, Caleb Williams is a talent. He's a guy that's good for doing that. But if you can make him shaky, man, I think, and put the pressure on him, I think we might see a little bit different. And remember this also, if Denard Wilson does what he says he's going to do, you're going to see a lot of receivers, whether or not they're going to be used to the physicality of the Titans. I mean, that's going to be a whole different, outside of Keenan Allen, really.
Yes.
That's going to be the big difference. So we got to see how that's going to work as well, because, again, with the physicality, with them bumping at the line of scrimmage and everything, it's going to delay the rhythm of the offense. And, again, if you get that push up the middle between T. Sweat and Jeffrey Simmons and including Sebastian Joseph Day, they could really wreak havoc on that offense. It's going to be interesting to see, because again, like you said, Chicago has a revamped offensive line. We're going to have to see how they're going to play. But again, I just don't see anybody being able to double team both Big Jeff and T Sweat, and I just expect one of them to going to break free up the middle.
Yeah, and Duzier, and just to hit back on him, man, the guy had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, 81 receptions, almost 1,400 and plus yards, 13 touchdowns, and had some issues with injuries. But he's got good size, he's got good speed. Keenan Allen's always gave us issues. Somebody put that in the chat. I mean, it's every time we play, man. Every time we play. And so, we got to work with it. It's going to be so. To your point, G-Wit, I do like the fact that we know Denard says he's going to press. We know he said they're going to blitz, right? And so one thing we know for sure, just by what he's saying, what we've seen in the preseason, we're not going to sit back and let the rookie pick us apart.
Right.
Knowing what the Titans have done in the past.
Yeah, that happens. I'm going to be severely disappointed.
I will be shocked. And I will come over here and say I apologize for if he does do that. But the thing that's very interesting to me also is the matchups of the DBs. Who's going to take Keenan Allen? Who's going to DJ Moore? He almost had 1,400 yard receiving. That was with Justin Fields. Yeah. And so I'm not saying Caleb Caleb Williams is going to be better than Justin Fields. He's had the potential. He had we'll see what happens there. But Cole Kmet, the tight end, had almost 700. He had 719 yards receiving. So they got some guys on the offensive side of the ball. The matchups are going to be key. And then, like you said, the pressure. If he decides this to rush 4, can we get pressure with 4 guys?
Right.
And still press? And I agree with you, Eddie Gray. He says Malcolm Butler would have thrived in his defense. Yeah, because that was his game.
Yeah, that was his game.
He
roughed him. Yeah, Joe said he hopes the Titans team does not take old habits by letting Rick. Yeah, man. Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, he's spot on with that. Yeah. And so I want to see the matchups. So here's my concern, though. For our offensive line, it's going to be a test because they got Montez Sweat, right? He had 6 sacks in 9 games for the Bears, 14 tackles for loss, right? And so the Bears had a 12th ranked defense last year. Yep. They added a few pieces. They added Byard to the back end to help solidify that. Had issues with safety, lost Eddie Jackson. They brought in Jonathan Owens from the Packers. Yeah. And so they've done some things to build that defense up, man. Number 1 against the run last season.
Yep.
Got everybody back, for the most part from that defense. Had both their linebackers. TJ Edwards had 155 tackles, 7th in the league, and then Tremaine Edwards. And so it's going to be a test all the way around. And they got Jalen Johnson's considered one of the top cornerbacks. Man, it's going to be a test for the offensive line, in particular the young guys. G. Witt for the Trench King, J.C. Latham. If he can take Sweat one-on-one, are they going to let him have him one-on-one? They're going to chip on his side, man. What do you think about that matchup for the young guy?
The thing that you have to like is that what Callahan said today in his presser was the fact that the running backs are going to have to be there to help out. Because they're not going to leave the tackles on an island by themselves in certain situations and everything. So, and again, we're dealing with J.C. Latham is going to be his first real NFL start. And, let's be real about it. He's going to have some issues. Being a rookie, he's going to have some issues. If he doesn't, I'm going to be totally surprised. The question I got in all honesty with our offensive line is going to be on the right side. How does NPF and Dylan Radins hold up? I'm not so much worried about Skoronski or our center, but I'm worried about that right side of the line because I just don't know how they're going to hold up. You talk about injuries; those 2 have missed more games than the other 3 combined. Yeah. So my thing is, how well are they going to hold up? Because again, Chicago's defensive line is no joke.
That's right.
I mean, number 1 against the rush. I forgot what they were in the passing game, but still
237 yards. Yeah, 25th.
That's going to be a tough defense to go against.
Yep.
And it's going to be tough to run against. And it's going to be interesting to see how Tony Pollard and Tyjae Spears runs against that defense. They could do well. I'm not going to even deny that. They could do well because of the different back. They don't both of them are pretty good and pretty quick with their feet and everything, can make good cuts. So it's going to be interesting to see how we run against them. But we're going to have to run the ball to take a little pressure off of Will Levis. But at the same time, we saw in the preseason, the one thing Callahan is doing is what we've talked about, or what Jay Lewis specifically has said for a long time, using the passing game as a running game.
Yep.
Taking the passing yards, getting 5, 6, 7 yards on the pass. So that may be the out in order to move against that defense and soften them up for the
run. Good point, Joe. Joe said the same thing, man. Using the running backs split out as wide and throwing them the ball. Yeah, Jay Lou, man. He has been wanting this offense for a long time.
I mean, G, what took my thunder? Because I was going to say the game plan has to be, we're going to see a lot of check down Willie is what I'm going to call him. And you have to be satisfied with a 4-yard pass being like a 4-yard run. Yeah. And I think you'll see a lot of that. I'm curious, again, with them being tough, and I think if I'm not mistaken, the Bears are one of a few teams in the league that want to run a traditional 4-3 type front. So I think you see, this is where I think you see the zone scheme running that we've seen. Not only that, but running a lot of it out of the shotgun and pulling to kind of get some of your athletic linemen going downhill. And just, hoping that nobody gets the backside pursuit. But I really think we see the short passing game be our extension of the run game. Because, I mean, you've got wide receivers as well that you can throw 2-3 yard slants and they make one move and it's 20-30 yards down the field. So I think that's what's going to have to be, because I think the Bears, again, as we just talked about Caleb Williams being young, we still got a young quarterback on our side. Even though he played 8-9 games, he's still young. I'm leaning heavy on I'm curious to see Cushenberry step up and be the leader he was brought in here to be, because this is a game to G.
They voted him the captain.
They made him the captain, and you young on both sides, left and right. How does he call it out, make sure protections are right, etc., to keep not only his line mates upright, but keep his quarterback upright as well. So I think that, interested to see that chess match right there. But again, that was my one call out that would be in the Titans' favor if they want to be successful Sunday. I think we have to use the pass to set up the run.
Deion said this is where NWI is going to be the unsung hero. He's called it.
I've already said he's going to have the first touchdown of the season.
Thank you for joining us, Travis White, man. Appreciate you, man. Yeah, and so another familiar face, guys, DeMarcus Walker.
Yes.
DeMarcus Walker, man. 9 TFLs last season for the Bears. And so, yeah, it's going to be on the road, and like you said, environment is going to be hyped up because, the new look Bears, they got the young gun at quarterback. It's going to be a great test. And then, you always got to throw this in there too, guys. But Callie, his play calling, this is real. Right. This is
on both sides.
On both sides.
Him and Denard.
They first time, both of them. First time. We got a young coaching staff as far as experience. And so
and this is where, again, I just talked about, I didn't mean to cut you off, but this is where I just talked about Cushenberry. On the flip side, when you expand it to the coaching staff, this is when you expect the position coaches to help the coordinators and the head coach. Because when you look at the position coaches, the experience is there. The experience is there. I mean, Daddy Callahan was in the Super Bowl. He's seen a lot too. So being able to help them, that I will say that I've liked it so far in the preseason. If I'm not mistaken, the O coordinator, his name slips my mind right now. Coach, he's in the box, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he's down on the field.
So no.
He's been down there some.
Okay, he's in the box though.
I thought he was in the box most of the time, because I remember Callahan saying they like to be able to see that difference, even though they're game planning that way. So I think that'd be interesting too, when you got two guys that can call plays to see one seeing it from the sky. So
and it's going to be interesting to see. In all honesty, Will Levis, how he's going to handle everything. Is he going to be able to check out of plays if he sees a certain coverage that he doesn't like, or whatever the case may be? So that's going to be the whole key for him. Again, let's be real about it. It's really his first time starting in the beginning of the season and everything. Even though he played last season, it's going to be a whole new ball game for him in a totally different offense. So we're going to see how it goes and everything. He's really lucky. The good thing about Rand is that he did go out and get those veteran receivers and got some solid tight ends who know how to get open. So he has some check downs and everything. Even outside of the running backs, he has some check down receivers that he can hit who are good at getting open in small spaces and making good plays after the catch.
Yeah, and another thing about Levis, now he's the man, right?
Yeah.
It's different from last year. So now, he was talking about pressure today, and I mean, he don't have to admit to it, but there's pressure there. Now he's the guy. Right, he's supposed to be the face of the franchise now. He's getting the endorsements from Mayo and the cologne and all that stuff. So he's got some pressure on him, man. And I'm gonna be like Deion, and I told these two guys for all those on the show tonight, DMR will be tight end 1 before the season is over. Yeah. Mark it down. I'm telling you, that kid is a kid. He's got the skill set to be the man. He's got the skill set. And so let's take a look at the defense side of the ball, man, and what we're going there. Here's my concern right off the bat: the durabilities of our DBs, our corners. They hadn't practiced in a while. They didn't go through camp, and so their condition, their durability, and something I heard them talking about the other day. They were saying that, they've done walkthroughs, they've been talking, but the communication on the field is going to be key. G-Wit in this game, because they hadn't been out there together, hadn't been done some full speed stuff this past week, and of course they'll ramp up this week as well. But man, my concern is the durability and the conditioning of our secondary at this point.
And that's a legit concern, considering that, like you said, they really hadn't practiced all off season, all training camp, and I take that back. I know how Snead practiced some, but I know Owuzie didn't practice at all because of the calf injury and everything. Now Callahan is saying that he's confident in him. He's seen him play. He knows that they've been aggressive in the meeting room and in the walkthroughs. But like you said, I know they're both available full practice this week, but it's going to be interesting to see, like you said, the game conditioning and everything. Now, hopefully, what happens for the Titans' favors is the fact that the offense plays so solid and can put together some good drives. We ain't got to worry about the conditioning because there won't be a lot of 3 and outs,
right?
And gives them a little time. But hey, it's going to be interesting to see how that comes to play, especially with the safeties, because again, the only safety we've seen play, starting safety we've seen play this year, has been Amani Hooker.
Hooker.
So Diggs hasn't played, Adams hasn't played. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out as well. So it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a little bit different with this communication in the secondary.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, J. Lou.
So, I like to give the weather reports.
You do.
So it's not going to be hot Sunday.
That's good.
The temp's only going to be 68 degrees.
Oh, wow.
Feels about 70. The kicker, because we're in Chicago.
Yeah.
Wind gust up to 20 miles per hour.
Ooh.
During the game. So that's a chilly September. Now watch, they're gonna come back home next week. Maybe 95 degrees.
95 degrees.
Absolutely.
For the first game. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Tennessee weather, baby.
Yeah, but to your point about conditioning, you don't have to worry about the heat, but you still got to worry about it, especially being his first game. And that's my concern. When you think about, I think I'm more concerned about Cheeto than I would be Snead, only because they're running the exact play they ran with Snead for Kansas City. Cheeto been down since training camp week 1, if I'm not mistaken. So, and I'm being honest, I got the battered Titan syndrome. The first thing that comes to the first thing that comes to my head with any of these skilled players like that is these soft tissue hamstrings.
Right.
So I mean, especially when you haven't done the running and the ramp up period and stuff like that, because again, that's what you use the preseason for. I mean, we saw it. They started training camp game practice at 8:00 in the morning, then ramped up to 10 and 11 to get used to ramping up. So the players like that haven't been able to ramp up. Even the D-Hops, if D-Hop's available this week, is he on a pitch count? What do you do to ramp him back up? Because at the end of the day, we got to remember this is just game 1. Now you want to start off good, but you still got 17 more of them to go and 16 more of them to go. So I'm curious about that when you start seeing some of these guys, even Harold Landry. I think about him because he didn't take a snap. Big Jeff, some of these guys like that go so hard, how they can hold up in this game.
So our strength and conditioning team is going to get really tested. The new one, right? The new regime is going to be really tested in these first few weeks, especially for those guys that you mentioned that hadn't played yet. Tyshawn, I agree with you, man. I think the defense will be top 10 as well. Of course, defense is always ahead of the offense because the defense just has to react and play. Offense has got, they got to change the routes. They got to change, who to block, who to pick up the blitz. So it's a lot more goals in offense. But yeah, to your point, man, I agree with you. But yeah, man, that's my concern. The communication, the conditioning, and like to your point though, G Witt, like you said, not going through it now. We saw the Titans dominate time possession in the preseason.
Yes,
right, running this type of offense. Yeah, and so and hopefully, that's something they could continue on, especially early on. I mean, every game actually. That's what you want to do. You want to control the clock. You want to put up points, and give your defense some rest. And so, man, it's here, guys. It's here. I can't say enough. And with the win, Jay Lee, you brought up an interesting point. All I can think about, man, is Folk and the 51-yard at home, bro.
Well, my God. My whole thing is they kept him, and the win. I get that. Luckily, I would say that's one good reason you've kept him, because as a veteran kicker, he's kicked in all kinds of weather and everything.
Yeah. So especially in New England.
But the thing is, I think everybody's going to realize. I think Callahan probably knows it already. You got to cut out these 49, 50-yard field goals and start trying to keep them under 45 yards to give a good opportunity, give a good shot of making them with an older kicker like we have. He still has decent leg strength, but at the same time, you don't want them out there trying to kick a 54-yarder, and risking that and giving up field position like that, unless your defense is just simply playing lights out and you're going to get the ball right back.
Yeah, no doubt, man. But appreciate y'all joining us for another episode of Halftime Adjustments. This Labor Day edition of Halftime Adjustments, man. We looking at that 53-man roster. It's week 1. The Chicago Bears on the road, man. Caleb Williams and all the weapons. So both these teams, man, young quarterbacks, with weapons. Yeah, man, we're a serious show, Kevin. With weapons that they've added and surrounded them with, and man, it's going to be interesting to see who's going to enforce their will. If you
and the thing about it, you think about it, Chicago really, they're just plugging people into the offense, the same offense they ran last year. So
because they still got the same head coach.
They still got the same head coach. He's running the defense, so the defense is going to be good. For the Titans, though, it's a whole new ball game.
Yeah,
all the way around in every level. So it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out. Again, like I said, I can't wait to see the defense and see how that defensive line is going to play. If you see them against Chicago and they're wrecking shop, then we know it's on. It's going to be on the next week against the Jets as well. So it's going to be interesting to see.
That's what I can't wait to see. I can't wait to see the defense, man. Yeah, Deion is better. He says better score more TDs and ride less on field goals. Totally agree, man. Totally agree. Callahan said he want to break that streak of the 30-point.
And he said soon. He said soon. So
the 30 point.
Yeah, he said preseason don't count. So that don't count. 30 points.
That's right.
Right. Again, thank y'all for joining us, man, for another episode of Halftime Adjustments. Check us out next week. We back on after the Bears, man, talking about the Bears, man, the victory in Chicago State social field, man. Eddie out there, G with J. Lou, Halftime Adjustment, man. Join us next week. Appreciate y'all, man. We out of here.